right, parents, you know that feeling when you're running on fumes, juggling kids, a spouse, and maybe even a job that's lost its spark? What if I told you there's a way to hit the refresh button on your career without your family life falling apart? Stick around because today we're exploring how you can rediscover your passions and reinvent your work life, even amid laundry piles and soccer practice. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's rock and talk. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy, the podcast dedicated to helping parents improve their mental health, wellness, and life fulfillment. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we are talking about career pivots. My husband decided to have a career change again. He is still counseling, but he's doing some marketing and other things on the side. We've been talking a lot about this. I used to see those changes as a form of failure, but now I see it as him refining his mission. And that came with time. It wasn't easy initially to see it that way. And I know a lot of my clients initially see it as failure, like, oh, I'm just not getting it. And yet that's not what we would say to our kids. Like if they can't instantly walk or do these different things, it is just a step in becoming who they're meant to become. And sometimes that requires changing direction. Some of us get more distracted or even afraid and jump to other opportunities instead of taking the path that might have a more direct route. As long as we are trying to become our best selves and course correct when we receive new information that helps us understand what we can be doing that will fill us with greater joy and fulfillment, then that is not a failure, but is simply information to help you move forward in the best way. A midlife career pivot is a significant professional change, typically between the ages of 35 to 55, and it's often driven by this desire for more meaningful work or for that better work-life balance. For example, I didn't want to commute at my last job as a therapist, and I wanted to be more available for my kids instead of getting that pressure to work more or to work less or to work at this location or work remotely. It just felt too frustrating and too complicated. I wanted more flexibility. And maybe that's you. Maybe you want something different and you feel like you can't get it where you're currently at. So some common triggers for parents is they might feel stuck in an unfulfilling job. They might be like me, desiring more of that flexible family time. Or they might be realizing that their current career doesn't align with their evolved values and priorities. I think the key there is remembering those evolved values and priorities, because sometimes they're not super apparent when we are first starting out a career. For example, I really value freedom and flexibility and personal growth. If I'm in a career that doesn't give me those things, I'm not going to be happy. So for me, it is not a good idea to work for someone else. But you might value different things, and that's completely okay. Like maybe you want to collaborate as a team and you love being of assistance, or maybe you really enjoy working with children and cannot do that in your current job. So you want something more fulfilling. You've known it for a while, but did what you thought was best for everyone, but you're feeling depleted and unhappy. Now I'm going to go back to what Jennifer Finlayson Fife talks about, that one up, one down relationship. Are you seeing yourself as an equal in the family? Would you want your spouse or your children to do the same thing when they are in a situation where they are feeling like they have to stay and there's no option? Or would you give them the freedom to do the things that will help them become their best selves? The goal here is to allow yourself to do those things that will bring you the most joy instead of making excuses and not being able to see a way past that. Here are some signs that it's time for a career pivot. Maybe you have that chronic stress and burnout affecting your family life. Maybe you feel this lack of enthusiasm for your current work. Or maybe you have that feeling of disconnection from your professional identity. Like you just don't see yourself in that light anymore and it doesn't resonate with who you are now. Or maybe you find yourself daydreaming about different career paths. Oprah Winfrey said this: "The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams." Are you living the life of your dreams or are you just making excuses? It's so easy to get stuck in that trap of justifying why we can't do something instead of exploring ways that we might be able to. And it's hard when things feel tight, when it feels impossible, and yet there often are very simple ways if we'll open our minds to the possibility. A lot of my clients really struggle overcoming that fear and that resistance in those first steps when we start to talk about possible changes. So address those common fears. Maybe it's financial instability. Maybe it's starting over. Maybe it's imposter syndrome. I have another client that's an executive and a mother of two, and she was really afraid of leaving her stable job, but she found more energy as she stopped justifying and allowed herself to take those next few steps until she was in that place where she moved to freelance consulting and had everything that she was looking for with increased fulfillment. So what are some strategies you can use to build that confidence so you can move forward instead of staying stuck? Well, you can take some skills assessments. I know a lot of colleges and universities do things like that, or online, there's a lot of free resources. Just a quick Google search will help you with that. You can also do informational interviews. When I was going to go back to school, I decided to interview a bunch of professors just so I knew I wasn't wasting my time. This is what I'm really interested in, but I don't know what I don't know. How can you help me? Where should I go? What major should I steer towards? I just don't know. And once I had those interviews, then I felt so much more confident moving forward. It can also be part-time exploration. Maybe you get a part-time job in something that you think might be fun, but you don't want to jump in fully until you really know. It can also be taking a course in the meantime to close that gap in some of your career deficiencies. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be this huge, big thing, but it can be broken down into little things. Another thing you can do is research growing industries that align with your interests and your skills. Again, AI is so beautiful. I'm so glad it's out now. It's just very simple to research things that might have taken you a very long time before. So consider careers offering that better work-life balance, especially if you're a parent. For example, one of my clients was a former accountant, but then became a virtual CFO for startup companies. That allowed him more time with his family instead of just working crazy hours. Steve Jobs said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. It's unfortunate that we get so stuck to a timeline, like it's too late for us, when in reality, people change careers constantly. It's not like it was for our grandparents or even our parents. This is a very normal thing to change careers many times in a lifetime. So, what are some quick practical steps for a career transition, especially if you're living in that fear? Well, break it down. Super simple way you can do this, and I do this with a lot of my clients, is set a 20-minute timer first thing in the morning when you sit down at your desk. Put it on for 20 minutes just on weekdays. That first tiny step, that's all I want you to focus on. And for that 20 minutes, you're just going to research and take notes on those next steps or on your interest or a skills assessment, whatever it is. It's just career development, career research, because you don't know what you don't know right now. And the unknown is the scary part that is often keeping you stuck. So just set a 20-minute timer, 5 times a week. Eat that frog, do it first thing in the morning so that it doesn't become this big stumbling block of mental fatigue that you avoid throughout the day. Get that done. Super simple. The next thing you can do is update your resume and your LinkedIn profile to reflect that new direction. Again, you can get help with AI from that. You don't have to start from scratch like before. Brush it up very simply. You can attach it in AI and tell them to clean it up and tell them what you want to include on there, and it can be very simple. Another thing that is very easy to do, but a lot of people don't utilize, is use your current network. Like maybe you're part of some groups, or maybe your church group, maybe it's a Facebook page, any social media at all. Reach out to those people that know you and can vouch for you, and they can tell you about different opportunities or even ideas that they might have for the things that you're interested in. Like, say, I just want something flexible and I really value this and I love this industry. Does anyone know a job that would fit well with that? So, do that in AI, do that in your communities, whatever that might be. You can also acquire those new skills through online courses or certifications. And consider those bridge jobs to help you gain experience in your new field before jumping in fully. Another very important step that can cause problems if it's not navigated carefully, and that's communicating openly with your spouse about your career goals and concerns. You can also involve your kids in this, obviously in an age-appropriate way, about your feelings and just see what they say. They can be a great support without creating that anxiety, just simply a discussion about how are craving something but not really sure what it is, and maybe they can explore that with you. You can also create a support system with your friends, your families, maybe a professional coach. I actually have another story about that. I have another client who was a stay-at-home mom and her kids all went to school. She finally stopped making excuses because she was really afraid to go back into the workforce since it had been so long. She felt like she no longer had any skills that would be beneficial to an employer. Eventually, she realized that she was staying stuck and stagnant, and she really desired to grow in that professional way and contribute to family finances. And she wasn't happy just sitting at home and doing little things here and there. She wanted to develop herself professionally. She finally stopped making excuses and faced her fears that she'd never find a flexible job. She started researching because it was important for her to have something flexible for her family's needs. Now she subs classes as she builds an online business. And she loves it. It's not really time consuming, it's flexible. And she also gets to become who she feels she's meant to become. In this space, it's so important to remember the growth mindset and to view these challenges or potential changes as opportunities for learning and growth, and celebrate those small wins and lessons that you've learned in your career and the opportunity to change. Change can be a very beautiful thing, even though there's uncertainties there. Steve Jobs said, "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work." So what is that great work that you believe in? And you don't have to have this hard and fast answer, but you can process it, you can reflect, you can journal. Another great thing you could do is sign up for Find Your Focus. That is a course that I offer. It really helps you break things down if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur and starting an online business and a podcast. That is a very simple step that will break it down into those little steps for you to become an entrepreneur. During this process, it's really important to maintain that work-life balance during that transition. Set boundaries to protect your family time and practice self-care to manage stress and maintain your energy. For example, I have another client here. She moved from finance to nutrition coaching. She'd been wanting to go to coaching for a while, but she felt really scared about that. Eventually, she gained the courage to do that, and she blocked out some hours for family dinners, weekend activities, and things like that. She focused more on quality time versus quantity time, and they were all so much happier and more fulfilled as she made that career transition. So in conclusion, my friends, just break down your career transition into small, manageable steps and set aside 20 minutes daily to work on your pivot. Address your fears head on and recognize that financial instability and imposter syndrome are very common concerns, but they don't need to hold you back. Also, make sure that your new career path is aligned with your values and your priorities, because you won't be happy if it is not. Consider what really matters to you, like flexibility, personal growth, freedom, or whatever that might be. Communicate with your spouse or children and seek help from mentors or other professionals that can guide you into a path that might be much better suited for not only you, but for your family as well. And remember, a midlife career pivot is not just about changing jobs, but aligning your professional values, like I said, with your values, with your passions, with your family priorities. And by taking this step, because it does require courage, right? You're not only improving your own life, but also inspiring your children to pursue their dreams. Because the chance is very high that in the future, they will change careers many times. And you are modeling how to do that in healthy ways without that shame or without that justification, and leaning into that discomfort or to those fears and challenging that to become your best self. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. Don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already, so we can help others and expand our reach. Also, check out our blog at fulfillmenttherapy.org/blog, and you will be able to see all of these podcast episodes in blog post form, so you can utilize these different tools and steps if you ever forget them or want those quotes. It is all in our blog as well as in our show notes. Thank you, my friends, for listening, and I'll see you soon. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you, no matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.